Hi guys, my name is Ray Qureshi and thank you for joining me for another video. This time I'll be going with the same concept as I have in the past in regards to having conversations with quality FPL content creators about how they supported their team. So I have here from TED Talks FPL, Ted. How are you, sir?
I'm really good, Ray. Thank you so much for having me on. I've never really done a stream like this where I've talked about my own, like the support, how I support Liverpool, and I made it my gifts. This is my team, Liverpool, so I'm giving that away early. And I'm not wearing the red. I'm wearing the blue, so I don't know what I'm doing. But I've had a bit of a long day, so you can let me off. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's good.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So for those who will hopefully listen, I met Ted at the Fantasy Football Fest. I think we maybe only got 2 sentences together, but he was part of the Quizmasters that night. I think the team won.
We did. I can take no credit for it, at all. I think there was a lot of clever quiz brains in that team, and I was just the scribe, I think. But yeah, we won a signed Fulham shirt, so that was pretty decent. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I was in the middle. No, I was in the middle of probably my 8th whiskey and coke. So by then I was just loitering around with a couple of the guys like Nima. He and I had one hell of a night. I'll tell you offline. So yeah, Ted introduced it quite well. So I'd like to get into the mind of the football fan, of the quality content creator. I must say, Ted, I'm a huge fan of your work. No one else does it. And it really has helped me with some of the decisions I've made this season already. So just keep up the fantastic work, buddy.
Good. I'm glad it's helpful. Yeah, it started off just wanting to help the community. So that's all it is really. And I'm glad it's helping a lot of people out there. It helps keep my FPL stuff together. Otherwise I'd be lost. So there we go.
Excellent. So I think we'll start off with who is Ted? Just a quick introduction about yourself, pal.
Yeah. In terms of my everyday life, I'm down in Southampton. Fiance, and we've like rearranged our wedding like twice now due to COVID. So we'll be getting married next June. Finally, 3rd time lucky. But yeah, in terms of I do FPL content couple of days a week. But my day job is I'm a motor underwriter for an insurance company, which basically doesn't sound very interesting. Like, people back away from you at dinner parties when you say that usually. But I think there's a lot of parallels that you can draw to FPL. It's basically like having your own FPL team, but it's like a portfolio of actual real people and their cars and all this sort of stuff. And instead of like picking a team full of defenders, midfielders and forwards, you attract customers, you attract a certain demographic of people that you're comfortable accepting their risk, and you base it on, it's like clean sheets. It's like in insurance you don't want stuff to happen, whereas I guess in FPL you want goals and assists and all that sort of stuff. But it's super interesting, and I use it a lot in my FPL decision making to make more accurate decisions, and a lot of it is data stuff. So that's why I've drawn that parallel in FPL, that sort of the idea that when you're in a corporate environment or a working environment, the idea is to communicate complex stuff really, really simply, and that's what I try and do at FPL as well.
Fantastic.
Anything else? I could do the whole life story for you, Ray, if you want.
Whatever you want. I think it's. So I work in operations and project management, and I sometimes am the middleman between the project team and the developers, and then the customer. So having an understanding of the business concept and the business direction is extremely important. So I can relate to you in trying to make the complicated simple. Is one of the hardest skills to do.
Yeah, 100%. It's much more difficult than it sounds, basically.
Absolutely. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. So we'll move on to the real meat and potatoes of this. So why Liverpool, Ted? So I'm here. I want a bedtime story about how Ted started supporting Liverpool.
God, I mean, it's a long story, I suppose, but I was a childhood Liverpool fan, and I must have started supporting them around 9 years old, something like that. But as you could probably tell, I'm not from Liverpool, and I don't have any links to the area whatsoever. So it's a pretty frivolous reason. I think I must have been about that age, and I thought, I don't want to copy my dad and support Chelsea. I like Michael Owen. Michael Owen's pretty cool. I can relate to him. He's pretty small and quick and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, oh, I like Liverpool. So I started supporting Liverpool. Just some random reason. I guess people that support a team who live abroad, who don't live in the UK, maybe can relate to that. Maybe it is just a random reason that you start supporting a team, and then you're basically locked in. You start watching the games and you continue, and it's all engulfing. I've never even thought once about not supporting them. So you have to start somewhere, right? And it just continues on from there. But yeah, I mean, my dad was pretty accepting. He's a pretty big Chelsea fan. He bought me my first Liverpool shirt. Awesome. Had Steven Gerrard on the back. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting because when I was growing up, we didn't have Sky or anything like that. So I couldn't actually watch any live Premier League games. And the only time I ever remember watching football was on Sunday mornings, Match of the Day, when it was on the repeat. Yeah. I wasn't sure. I wasn't old enough to stay up and watch Match of the Day late on. So yeah, no, and then I guess you've got the Champions League stuff that started coming through, and the fact that Liverpool were certainly in 2005, they won it against AC Milan. That was like one of my best memories as a Liverpool fan. And then they did that 3-0 comeback against West Ham in 2006 in the FA Cup final. Those were absolutely fantastic 2 years. And I was 14, 15 at the time. And the fact that Liverpool were good in the competitions that wasn't the Premier League, which I couldn't watch, was like a marriage of convenience, I guess. So yeah, I don't really know why I supported Liverpool, but I started young. I supported them all the way through, and it's just one of those things. And I guess ever since I've become, ever since I turned an adult, 12 years ago now, you can watch, the Sky and BT and all that sort of stuff. And I basically became addicted at watching all these Premier League games. And then FPL came along and fantasy football and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, pretty obsessed, as I'm sure quite a lot of people watching this video are obsessed with FPL, if not football in general. But yeah.
Fantastic. You usually attach yourself to a player to support a team. So did you have one that you attach yourself to?
Yeah, it was Michael Owen. It was Michael Owen at the time. But I don't really remember watching him play. I think I remember watching like an England match or a few England matches, and he was incredible in that. I remember, but I don't remember watching him play because I think he stopped playing for Liverpool in 2004, which was about.
Yeah, it was the year you won the Champions League.
Was it? Maybe the year before.
It was in 2004. He left. Yeah, to Real Madrid. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the year before we won the Champions League. I think we won it in 2005, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the thing that I attached to. But then other players took over, other favourite players. And that was mainly from playing. I think my first ever computer game or whatever it was I can't remember the title. It was like FIFA 2001 or FIFA 2002, or it was like a Championship Manager thing. But it had Thierry Henry on the cover. And it had on the entrance music, it was Gorillaz, that 19-2000 song, which is like really catchy, and it always stuck with me. It was such an important game, and I remember it was like a manager game, and I had my team, my Liverpool team at that time, which was the Sami Hyypiäs and the Jamie Carragers, Milan Baros, Djibril Cissé, and all that sort of stuff. And I remember setting it up and watched them actually play. It was the first game I could watch them actually play out the match without me having to do anything.
Okay.
So it always stuck with me. But yeah, it's just interesting because I actually had to reflect on this before coming on the video, that I didn't actually watch any live Premier League games for
insane
for like 6 or 7 years as a child, which is super strange considering I never really miss one nowadays. But there you have it.
That's fantastic. Congratulations this really season good. After a fantastic run to just about sneak into the Champions League.
It's a strange season this year. A lot of the top four have made, well, 3 of the top 4 have made big signings. Ronaldo coming in for Man United, Sancho, Varane, Lukaku especially for Chelsea. Man City, Jack Grealish, but they already have a big squad anyway. And Liverpool haven't really signed anyone high profile, although you could argue that the return of Van Dijk is probably a signing in itself. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's pretty wide open. A lot of pundits saying Chelsea to win the title, but I think it's going to be closer than that. And Liverpool were playing as strong as they ever do in the last couple of seasons. So I'd be very surprised if we weren't top 4, because the likes of Tottenham, Arsenal, West Ham, Leicester, I'm not sure they challenge too much in the head-to-heads against Liverpool. I would be also pretty disappointed if we came 4th. So I think it's 1 to 3, and who knows what's going to happen. I'd like to be biased and say, yeah, we're going to storm it, but it really depends what's going to happen in the big games. We've already drawn in one of the big games, so that wasn't bad, although we should have won it because obviously Chelsea were down to 10 men, weren't they? Yeah. But I think we're going to be fine against the weaker teams, as I think quite a lot of the top 4 will be. But I really don't know. As a Liverpool fan, I've been through it all in terms of the sadness. And I can never really complain about being worse off, because I've supported a pretty affluent team that's had a lot of success throughout the years. They've won lots of Champions Leagues, but it's that Premier League title that's always eluded them, apart from obviously a couple of years ago. But that was strange for me. That it was a really, really strange experience, because it felt underwhelming, and it was because they had won so easily. They were like 20 points clear when the season was postponed almost because of COVID. And then we had to wait ages. And then we had that mini break, didn't we? Had that 10-week period where all these games were crammed in, and they were basically made champions. They didn't celebrate in front of the fans. And everyone sort of knew for like 4 or 5 months that Liverpool were going to win the title. Yeah. And as someone who's waited my entire Liverpool, supporting career for them to win the title, it was really a shame for that to happen in that way. And it's a shame that I have to reflect like that, because obviously winning the title is incredible. I would just really love them to do it again in the normal way.
Right. With
do you
fans.
Know what I mean?
Without cancellations.
With fans, exactly. It's a big part of the game. But yeah, I think top 3 this year. I can't be more specific than that, because I think Chelsea and Man U do look all right. I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea win it, to be fair. But yeah,
what do you think in the? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, you go on. I was going to ramble.
No, it's brilliant. No, but that's the point of this. You can ramble. You can talk about your team. Absolutely. What about the cup competitions and, of course, the Champions League? I mean, amazing victory last night, but it was a crazy game.
Yeah, high standard. And the thing that concerned me about last night was the defensive solidity. And obviously, it's AC Milan. Why do we always play AC Milan in the Champions League? Because, well, obviously we have history, don't we? We beat them in that 3-0, and then the 3-0, and then the penalty shootout in 2005, and then infamously lost in 2007 in a repeat.
Double Inzaghi, yeah.
Dirk Kuyt, my boy, he scored the first. But the Champions League is just my favourite competition ever, because it has that history for me. And Liverpool have always done well. For some reason, I have no idea why. Why would they have more success in a knockout competition than some of the bigger teams in Europe? I mean, Chelsea have won it a couple of times as well, of course. But I don't understand why Man City haven't. It's one of those things that eludes them. But Yeah, what sometimes competitions do elude you, and obviously I know that from the Premier League and Liverpool in previous years. So it's what it is. But it was the Champions League in 2005. I just remember just staying up. I think I was 14 years old. It was the most exciting thing ever for me.
Oh, yeah.
And watching it, it was late, and the fans were absolutely just going off. And Steven Gerrard is just my absolute hero because of those moments. And the fact that they did exactly the same thing against West Ham in the FA Cup final in 2006, the following year, in exactly the same circumstances, went 3-0 down. Steven Gerrard pulls it back with a couple of goals to make it 3-3, and we win in a penalty shootout. Jersey Dudek, absolute hero.
No spoilers yet for the later segment. So yeah, personally speaking, I mean, it's not about me, but it's important to, I feel, give my experience of Liverpool. I have a huge affinity with Liverpool because what they do in the Champions League is they do something magical to viewers in the Champions League at home. Like I was watching yesterday's game and I was just engrossed. You know, the speed, the velocity of the way you were attacking. It's almost always been like that in Champions League games, no matter what the quality has been in the Premier League. It's quite funny you say that, Ray. For like 6-7 years, I couldn't watch Liverpool in the Premier League. You were not very good in the Premier League during that time. But that FA Cup game, it was actually, you went down 2-0 and then 3-1. And when Gerrard scored that equaliser goal, I just went nuts because I'm a huge Gerrard fan. I love what he represents. I love that he stayed, that he didn't go to Chelsea, you know, a real one-man team. And that goal was just incredible. It was like a half volley from like 35 yards out, something stupid. Incredible footballer. And yeah. So, sorry, we could just, I could stop recording now. We could just talk about Liverpool for an hour. I have no issues whatsoever. But yeah, I think. Well, I'll ask. It's not part of. It's not actually a question at all. But would you say that Champions League game is your finest Liverpool memory?
100%. There's nothing that comes close. As you say, it's just something about the evening games. I know it wasn't at Anfield, it was in Istanbul, but especially at Anfield, it's just something about it. It's special. I can't really put my finger on it, but as you say, just magical things happen, like the Trent corner against Barcelona, and Origi just turns into like that clutch player that just scores these big goals. He's like Dirk Kuyt, I suppose, in that respect. But yeah. We do have big game players in Liverpool for some reason that don't really have that raw talent, but they turn up and they put the ball in the back of the net when it really matters, especially on those knockout competitions. And that's maybe what the difference is, because the league is a grind. It's a 38 game grind. You need squad depth, you need consistency, you need that raw talent, and you need the squad, which we didn't have for a number of years. That's arguable. But it's just that the players excelled in those knockout competitions, and it was really exciting to watch as a young Liverpool fan, definitely. But yeah, 100%, that Champions League final, it can't be beaten for me. I think maybe if we win the Premier League, on the last day or something, like that Man City Aguero stuff, maybe it would be that. But amazing. Yeah.
Amazing. Fantastic, Ted. Well, Ted, it would be lost of me to not mention something about FPL, considering your status in the community and the fact that you're educated and you're a genuine guy. Like, I'm really enjoying the conversation, so appreciate that. We have to talk about some of the best Liverpool assets. Now, before you answer the question, we could probably have 8 here, but I said to Ted, listen, you got a maximum of 4. So rattle them on and tell me why. And you don't have to give me stats. Just tell me what you think.
Is this Liverpool assets in this season?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. I mean, I think it's a fairly straightforward question, right? Because if I was like a Watford fan or I don't know, like a Brentford fan, people are not tripling up on Brentford or Watford assets necessarily, but probably most people have two or even three Liverpool players already in their team. Yeah. I think most of us do. I was locked into Simicast for ages, and I still am, to be honest. So I'd love to get Jota. I'd love to get Jota in, but I can't. So I will do at some point. But it's been fairly fortunate actually, because Simicast has blocked that move to Jota, which he's blanked a couple of times. So that's a bit lucky for non-Jota owners. But I fully expect him to turn that around because he is a class player. I would really, really love Roberto Firmino to be a decent FPL player, but in the past couple of seasons, he hasn't really been reliable. He does. I think 2 or 3 years ago, he was that burst player. He had purple patches, and you could get on him, and he would do really, really well. But he hasn't really even done that in the last 1 or 2 seasons, which is such a shame. And then Jota's come in and he's become a rotation risk. So, but I think what Firmino does for the team is incredible, and I think he enables Salah and Mane to a greater degree, even more so than what Jota does, because Jota is a poacher, he's a goal scorer, and that he'll take some of those opportunities away from Salah. That's just my perspective. I still think Jota is an incredible FPL option. In terms of the best FPL Liverpool assets, I mean, it's either Salah or Trent, right? And I think Trent is just on another level this season. He is just blowing it out of the park. And I mean, I can't remember who put some stats on Twitter. It was like who scored more, Salah or Trent, in the last 15 game weeks or something. And Trent had scored more than Salah in most of those game weeks.
Unbelievable.
And it just says it all, really. But the fact that he's playing in this advanced role and he's getting in infield, and he's even ending up in that right wing position past Salah in the second phase of play, he's just, obviously people would argue that might leave himself open at the back in terms of that defensive solidity. He's a little bit more lazy than Robertson at getting back and defending. So, but I mean, I think if Liverpool just keep clean sheets anyway, as an FPL asset, Trent is just probably the best for me, just above Salah, I would say.
Wow.
I know it. That's a bit. And
you'd never captain him.
I won't. But I think the thing that makes Trent such a decent asset is, if he wasn't a defender, I still think people would buy him. I think he'd be really well owned as a midfielder, because his stats this season are incredible. They're in line with some of the best players out there. So the fact that he's a defender and he earns clean sheet points, and those can be doubled up in terms of the attacking assets and the attacking points and the defensive points, and that basically makes him a bonus magnet as well. Just means he's head and shoulders. And I think because we've got so many premium options in the game at the moment, Lukaku, Ronaldo, Fernandes, De Bruyne when he's back, etc., Son, Mane, Salah. Salah is in everyone's team anyway. But you know, if you really had to go without Salah for some reason, then you could make do with the other premium options out there. There's no other alternative to Trent from my perspective in the defensive line. So I don't like using the word essential, but he's borderline essential for me.
What are your thoughts on Mane?
He really frustrates me, Mane. He's so good. He's got that raw talent, and he has loads of shots. It's that the relationship with Salah, I still can't get my head around it. Like whether they're actually friends or whether they're rivals or whether they just put a brave face on.
Frenemies.
Exactly. They have to show that they're passing to each other sometimes, maybe when it's not that great an opportunity, but then keep the good opportunities for themselves. I really don't know. I think Salah's more of a clinical finisher than Mane. Mane tends to score some of the more elaborate efforts. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats at the moment, Mane's having more shots than Salah. He's on 22, Salah's on 16. I put a chart up earlier. So about like the shots on target, shots blocked, shots off target. Mane just seems to have all of his shots blocked for some reason. I don't know why maybe he's not getting into the right positions or not. But in terms of as an FPL asset, he's not really a go this year because of his price. The 12 million versus Salah at 12.5. I think people would be more on Mane if he was 11, maybe even 11.5. That creates the choice for people, I think.
Yes. Salah
is just the option. He's on penalties. There's nothing really more to say that. So Trent, Salah, Jota, and Robertson it has to be probably. I mean, I think Alisson's a really good shout. He could be the first ever goalkeeper that justifies a high price tag because it never really works out. It never really works out in FPL. It's always the goalkeepers that get the clean sheet points. They never really get that much of the saves because the teams that they play for play in such a high possession style that the opposition team don't really get a chance to shoot too often. But for some reason this year, Liverpool are letting a few shots on goal, and Alisson is just incredible at stopping them. So yeah, he's a bonus magnet as well. I wouldn't begrudge anyone from owning Alisson and spending that 6 million. But he does take away a Liverpool spot. It's certainly in the outfield where they are incredibly attacking. So I think if it was me right now, it would probably be Jota, Salah and Trent. I think quite a lot of people would be on that. But yeah, there's an array of options at Liverpool, and we're very lucky to have such a contingent in FPL. Someone as a fan, I watch all the Liverpool games. It's nice to have a full contingent of Liverpool players in your FPL team, because and for it to be like legitimate for you, it's like a viable strategy in the community to actually do that, rather than being like really biased and just tripling up on your team and just having 3 Everton, West Ham, Leicester players all season. Like I'm sure a lot of people do, but yeah.
Fantastic. So the reason I put this up, because of course we're going to have community questions. So if you just bear with me. Can you see that okay?
I can, yeah.
Wonderful. So we have got a few community questions. So I know these guys pretty well, really top lads. So we got Dan from at the FPL Way, who I actually work with as well. So it's really good for FPL content and all that stuff. Is Mane coming back to his old self? Thoughts on captaining Mane for game week 5? He loves the Palace fixture.
I mean, you've got to be bold. You have got to be bold to captain Mane ahead of Salah, I think. I'm not sure how well owned Mane is, but presumably it's low.
Yeah,
I'm going to look it up. Actually.
So am I.
I'm going to look it up because surely it's not.
We should have the elevator music on right now while we check.
2.7% owned.
What a differential that is.
2.7. But I don't know. When we watched Liverpool at the weekend, I was really happy because a lot of people.
You don't have Jota.
I don't have Jota. A lot of people had Salah captain. I had Ronaldo captain. So I think my arrow wouldn't have been as green if Mane could be as clinical as some other players. He really messed around before he got his goal. So that doesn't really fill me with too much confidence if I was going to back Mane for a Crystal Palace fixture.
He's on 99 goals. So he's going to shoot more. He's on 99 Liverpool goals.
do you put much credence into those sort of stats? Do you think it ebbs on the players' mind about they have to get to 100 goals this game? Or do you reckon?
I think it plays a part in regards to their psyche because it's an incredible landmark to score 100 goals for one team. But for me, I think it will egg Mane to shoot even more on site. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits the kind of numbers he did against Leeds.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I don't personally think so. I think they're trained to not think like that because presumably it becomes like that irrational thought inside your head that becomes it distracts you from playing your top game. And I play a lot of tennis in my spare time, and that's something that tennis players go through a lot. If you read, there's a book called The Chimp Paradox, which talks about how your mind is divided basically up into the logical side and then the emotional side, which they call the chimp. And they say if you let that chimp come out and start, going ooh, ooh, ah, like in your head and going, what, did you eat the right thing this morning? Did you train the right way? Have you stretched before this game? You can't hit your forehand. You can't hit that backhand. Your serve is rubbish. All this sort of stuff. And it starts eating away at you. I'm sure that professional athletes must have some sort of an element of anxiety, that they have their emotional side in their brains that starts coming out and saying, maybe I'm not scoring because of this. Maybe I'm not doing that right. Maybe I'm doing this. And I'm sure there's a lot of mental health aspects that they have to train as a professional footballer. They have to, I imagine so. Because obviously training for media, training for the expectation, training for that pressure is equally as important to the physical side. So yeah, I'm not sure I put too much credence on the stat stuff. Like, you've got to think that Mane's going, yeah, it will happen. It will happen organically, won't it? He'll score 100 goals. He plays for Liverpool. They're going to score 100 goals this year, and he's definitely going to be in the mix. So I don't know. I wouldn't.
Thoughts on captaining?
No, I wouldn't personally captain Mane. Like, my philosophy this season is, last season I went for too many captain punts, and it just doesn't work, because the captain volatility is huge, and you just need to keep that as stable as possible, because it's the most predictable element. And it's like the herd immunity. If you can go with the most popular pick each week, you just let the rest of your team give you the green arrows rather than the captaincy, because it can go really badly. So I wouldn't recommend captaining Mane at Palace. He'll go and score a hat-trick now, but
on a free hit, I'd probably captain Mane. Possibly.
Really?
I'd bring him in on a free hit, but I wouldn't captain him, but I'll probably bring him in on a free hit. Liverpool are going to get a lot of chances in this game. No doubt about that.
I hope Salah's not benched like he was at the Palace fixture last time, because, well, he came on and scored 2 goals, but yeah, I remember that well. Everyone getting so angry. I think we all captained him, didn't we? And he was benched.
I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was very, very fortunate. Hopefully he's not, because Salah played. Did he play the full 90 minutes last night?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
83 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more or less. So that's, I mean, he is a beast in terms of the fitness. So, I mean, it would be harsh for him not to play, and he just wants to play every minute. So yeah, don't look past Salah captain. It has to be.
Fantastic. Second question, what's your best Liverpool 11? Well, we prepped that, but I'll get to that after these questions. It's a lot of fun what Ted went with. Stadium of Sports, so Jay, part of FPL Juice, as I am. He's a juicer for Liverpool. I'm the juicer for Arsenal. As a fellow Red, really looking forward to this. Thanks, Jay. Is double Liverpool defence an option again this season?
God, it's a really interesting question, because obviously Trent and Robbo, even Van Dijk, they're pretty good for the attacking points, aren't they? Van Dijk is, I mean, he had a good season where he's scoring loads of headers, and Trent is really an enabler for Van Dijk as well. Van Dijk's had quite a lot of shots on goal with his header. I think I did some stats a couple of days ago, and he was one of the highest for a number of small chances. So clearly he's having those efforts. I don't know. I think Jota being 7 million or whatever price he is, so much cheaper than Mane or Salah, really does skew the interest in the Liverpool defence. And there's a lot of other viable 5.5 million defenders that, like Luke Shaw, like Reece James, maybe Chilwell when he gets in, maybe one Man City player. But I think there's a lot of attacking defenders from other teams that could be viable. If you wanted to go Trent and Robbo, I guess there would be nothing wrong with that, but I'm not sure I would do it. Robbo hasn't been as good in the last 18 months, I'd say, because he in the previous season, he'd matched Trent for a number of assists. And since then, I think he had an injury patch, didn't he? A very small injury patch. But I don't know whether it affected him or not, but his output hasn't been there. And I think Trent has just slowly moved ahead. And I think that 7 million price tag for Robertson is difficult to justify, especially when you're comparing Jota to Robertson at the moment. I think Jota is a much better pick. So maybe it will happen. Maybe it will happen because in this game, we've all been through it countless seasons. Defense becomes the focus, then the forwards become the focus, then the midfield becomes the focus. There's always a change in formation focus. If defense ever becomes, big at the back focus, then maybe the Robertson double up could be viable, even Van Dijk if you need to save the cash. But at this current time, I'd probably say no. Trent is the one. He can cover the Liverpool defense and more, I'd say.
Brilliant. Point 2 from Jay. It's a really good one. If you could pick one Liverpool player from the past to play today, who would it be?
There's so many. So many.
Even I'm thinking.
Oh my goodness. Because I guess if you think logically, it's like where are the holes in the team? And it's like, well, probably the right centre back. So Matip, for example, if you changed him for the likes of maybe Jamie Carragher in his prime, but then there's also the midfielders. I mean, the midfielders do a job, don't they? But they're not really Steven Gerrard, are they? I mean, it's the obvious one. If Steven Gerrard played in this squad, I think Liverpool would be.
Tell me about it.
I mean, just saying that excites us, doesn't it? The fact that he would, so it has to be Gerrard, I think. But even the likes of Luis Suarez or Fernando Torres as that focal point, maybe instead of Jota or Firmino, would be equally as good. So I think it would have to be Steven Gerrard. But the likes of Xabi Alonso or even like Javier Mascherano did a job, and he was
fantastic player. Player, yeah.
But has to be my main man, Stevie G. You would make that team so good.
Oh, I'm imagining it now. Just a moment of silence.
For the rest of the team.
Imagine him feeding Salah and Mane. Oh my goodness.
It'd be incredible. Can we make it happen? Can we?
Well, you can on FIFA Ultimate Team. Cheap plug. Fantastic, Ted. Point 3. And I've been guilty of this, to do a fist pump here or there, especially if my team are getting battered. Have you had, not quite the right English, Jay, I'm going to tease you about that. But basically, have you ever cheered an FPL asset scoring against Liverpool? By accident, but we never do it by accident.
I mean, I can't think of a specific moment, but I would almost 100% say that I definitely have. Because there's always a battle with supporting a team, isn't there? And being an FPL manager, if you're really into FPL, if you're a really dedicated FPL manager, the FPL team is a representation of you, and your team is a representation of something that you are supporting. It's not a representation of you. It's like a selfless thing supporting an organization that do their own thing, and they would do their thing even if you didn't support them. So your FPL team is a reflection of your decision-making ability. Yeah. And that's why we get so caught up in it. And yes, if there's like, if it's like Man City Liverpool and I want it to be 4-3 Liverpool because I want some Man City assets to score, there's so many times I can think of, actually thinking about it now, that has been the case. And I want some City players to score against Liverpool, which sounds horrendous, but it's like that, the optimal result, the optimal outcome that will make me happy in both instances, that FPL result and the actual result of the game. So yes, I have definitely been guilty of that, and I'm sure other people have, but diehard Liverpool fans will be casting me out forevermore for saying that, for admitting it, but it is what it is.
I have never heard anyone uh, clarify it so clearly that your FPL team's a personification of yourself, because it actually really is. Because you build it, you research, you pick them, you choose them, you put them in different scenarios, you then look at different proposals with Excel sheets and then muck around and all that kind of stuff. Because I have a few Excels I like to play on, and I've never thought about it like that. You really expressed it so eloquently, and I'm sure a lot of I'm gonna put that out to people the next time I cheer Harry Kane scoring against Arsenal. And I've got Harry Kane, but all I'll say is, look, I want us to win 5-2. Kane scores 2 goals. Ben White scores a hat trick of headers, and I'm happy.
Exactly. That's exactly it. You know, we can all
Everyone wins.
Exactly. We can always wish for that optimal result that will make us happy in both aspects. But yeah, I think the FPL team is definitely a reflection of because you play it like your personality. Like Late Riser plays it like he wants to upside chase. He wants to throw caution to the wind and get some players in that other people don't have, whereas other people might be more cautious. It's that strategy that you think is comfortable with your own mindset, your own, you know. I think it's a long-term game as well, so you have to be able to live with it. So yeah.
No, absolutely brilliant. Sorry, was there something else you want to add to that?
No, go on.
So now we're going to get to the fun bit. Now I'm just going to sit back and hear Ted express his team. It's brilliant. So, Dan, at the FPL Way, I'll make sure I tag you, pal, because I spoke to him earlier today. What's your best 11? Well, have I got a treat? Oh, I think you could see that nice and clearly. So
I can see it.
I was on the train back from the office and I said, hey, Ted, someone asked about your all-time Liverpool 11. And he goes, okay, it's not the best one, but it's the one that means most to me. And he threw me the team and I tried to conform it into some kind of formation. And then Ted and I had a couple of back and forths, and bless Ted, he said, sorry, Ray, last one. And I said, no, don't worry. Just go ahead. Tell me your formation, whatever it is. You'll try and put it down. So for those who might listen, because obviously on YouTube you can also listen if you have the premium version, is we got Dudek in goal, we got Trent right back, Carragher, Van Dijk in the middle, John Arne-Riso on the left, which I love because I remember his goal against Manchester United that almost broke the crossbar. Xabi Alonso and Gerrard, absolutely. I think Xabi Alonso is one of the most talented midfielders I've ever seen in the Premier League. We got Dirk Kuyt on the right, love it. And I think there's a specific segment that Ted would like to express regarding Dirk Kuyt. We got Fernando Torres on the left, and then we got Suarez and Salah. So you have picked a 4-2-2 formation. So the floor is all yours, Ted, please.
It was super difficult doing this, and I guess just to caveat it straight off, it was you asked me for my all-time Liverpool 11, and I guess a lot of people would go, oh yeah, you've got to have Alan Hansen in there, you've got to have Kenny Dalglish, you've got to have all of these Liverpool legends, Ian Rush, Robbie Fowler, all of there's countless names that you could put in. But I haven't watched them play. I didn't grow up watching those incredible achievements. They dominated the English league for so long, so I had to basically choose a team who I remember watching and making an impact to me and my childhood. I mean, Dirk Kuyt is the one that stands out in there as like, what on earth is he doing in that team? But
there wasn't a harder worker. I'll
exactly.
Tell you that much. Yeah.
100%. He
it wasn't so selfless.
He did.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. It's exactly what I was going to say. He didn't really have that raw talent that maybe other high-profile footballers had, but his work ethic, his professionalism, his relationship with the fans, like he's a big game player. He scored so many big goals from out of nowhere from Liverpool. I mean, he was a fan favorite because he after every single game, he would go to every single corner flag and like clap the fans, and he would always praise them in interviews. And he was just an absolute fan favorite, and he was one of mine too. His work ethic just completely antipathized the Liverpool I wanted to see, I wanted to watch. And there was various occasions throughout watching the various iterations of Liverpool teams where we didn't have that drive to win matches. We choked in big games. when Daniel Sturridge played, he had that great season with Suarez, but then he sort of started, shrugging his shoulders in matches. That's not what I want to see. I want to see someone with drive, with determination. I want to drive this team forward and bring success. And I definitely think Kaut just completely resembled that, totally. So I had to put him in this team, even though he does stand out like a sore thumb, really. And it meant I had to shove Fernando Torres on the left wing, which makes no sense. But I couldn't have. You have to have Salah, Suarez, and Torres. Surely, I mean, they were absolutely fantastic. But I don't know what formation I would put. I really don't know. But Torres would do a job on the left wing, right?
Sure, well, the first thing I thought about is if this is fantasy. The only way to really say it is FIFA Ultimate Team, because you can get these players and do the legends and icons or whatever they call it now, and you could make this team. And I'll tell you one thing: it is my God, the defense would be half bricking themselves, wouldn't they, by facing this team? I mean, there's no real weakness, and Fernando Torres can probably covered for his defensive deficiencies by what he'll be doing on the ball. So
no, it would be a good team. Technically, you could make it even stronger by putting Torres and Suarez up front, Salah on the right, Mane on the left, and you'd be even stronger. But I've only put Kaut in because it was nostalgic to me. But yeah, I mean, John Arne Riis is in there ahead of Robertson. Robertson's a big contender there because he's made an outstanding impact at Liverpool. And then arguably, I was talking earlier about the holes in the Liverpool team as we speak. It's that right centre-back where Matip plays. I mean, Matip's decent, but he's not the standard of Van Dijk. And I guess Carragher in his prime was probably a decent option.
Or Herpia.
Sami Herpia was an absolute legend.
Amazing.
Just rock solid, just wins every single header. Maybe like I don't know, maybe like a Van Dijk, maybe like a Harry Maguire or something like that. Although he's probably not in the same category. But
he's better. He's better than Maguire. I'll correct you. He's better than Maguire.
Well, yeah, I think it's a decent team. Alisson is probably a better goalkeeper than Dudek, but for nostalgic reasons, Dudek won those 2 penalty shootouts for me. To my 2 best memories as a Liverpool fan, the Champions League final in 2005, and then the West Ham FA Cup final, which we've talked about numerous times tonight. He was the hero in both of those penalty shootouts. So, I mean, yeah, how could I not put him in this team? Pepe Reina was another one, but he didn't really do anything. We won a few things, but the achievement wasn't there. He sort of dodged it all, poor chap. It was that doldrums, the 5 or 6 years where we played. We kept recruiting left wingers that never transpired. I can't even remember their names. But yeah, Reina was in that era where we had the Brendan Rodgers and Roy Hodgson, and he was a big part of obviously in Benitez. But he came after all of the wins, so yeah, it is what it is. But I'm pretty happy with that team from nostalgic reasons, of course.
About Van Dijk, I look at Van Dijk and I just think there isn't a weakness to his game whatsoever. I think he is if you built a centre back in the lab, out would come Van Dijk. And I'm just wondering I look at Van Dijk and I feel if he goes on for another 3 years, I think he could be the best Premier League centre half I've ever seen. And I've been around a little bit longer than you, and I've seen some great ones. But they've always had something that isn't an 8 out of 10, if that makes sense. Like Sol Campbell, sometimes he would go a bit mindless and just rush into a challenge and then miss and get sent off. John Terry didn't quite have the speed. Tony Adams didn't quite have the speed. Company didn't quite have the speed, but I thought he was an incredible defender. Van Dijk has all of that, including patience, including poise. He never throws himself into a challenge. He never has to slide tackle because he anticipates the play. And one thing is when players come at him, he knows how to shepherd them into corners, which is very old school defending. Now these defenders are idiots. They just want to jump in and distribute, get the ball straight away and distribute it. Van Dijk has that kind of old head on kind of this like new model of the way to play football now, from building up from the back. The reason I ask that is could Van Dijk be the defender that Liverpool fans think about 20, 30 years from now? That's where I was going.
I really hope so. I mean, I think this Liverpool team is arguably the best it's been in the last 20, 25 years.
Certainly.
So I think if we win a few more Premier League titles, if we win a Champions League here or there, and he makes that impact. I mean, he's already made the impact. He was so necessary last season. The loss of him was evident. We became instantly more leaky at the back. And as you say, I think the biggest thing for me that sets him apart from everyone else is his mindset. Is that, as you say, the poise, the patience. He never really gets angry with everyone else around him. He has made a few mistakes in the past, of course. I think everyone does, but he never really lets it affect him. Right. So I can completely foresee that he'll be a Liverpool hero, the likes of Alan Hansen or whoever. But obviously it depends if he stays at the club, because it's inevitable that maybe the high-profile teams in Europe might come calling eventually. But if we can keep him, then there's no doubt in my mind he's the real deal, and he's going to make this Liverpool team really, really good for the next few years. Definitely, a foundation to build the rest of the team upon, however it might change in the next few years. So, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. One more, Ted, before I let you go. It's been an absolute pleasure, first of all. I hope you've been enjoying it. So
I have. Yeah, no, it's good. I as I said before, I've never really talked so much about why I support Liverpool. I've sort of, taken it for granted. And I suppose, there's a lot of people that will go, "Oh, you support Liverpool. You're not from the area. You're from Kent, like the furthest away you could possibly be in the UK from Liverpool." And I just picked it. And so it's I think a lot of people might be able to relate to that.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with just picking a team and supporting them, as long as you commit to it. You don't really need a locational, geographical reason to support a team, although it probably does heighten your camaraderie with your family, your friends. There's a lot of people in your life that are going to support the same football team, and that's something that definitely I lacked. I didn't really have many people around me that supported Liverpool. I think I had one friend at school that did. But and in that respect, I definitely feel like envious towards those people, because I can imagine it brought tremendous joy in those moments to obviously the person that supports the team and everyone around them, and that's only sort of accumulated and exaggerated. So yeah.
Well, I guess you'll be able to. Oh, no, God, no, please, after. God.
No, I was just going to say I can't remember what your original question was.
I was going to get to it, but then you came up with a fantastic soliloquy that I had to listen to. Well, the good thing is, as the first generational Liverpool fan in your family, you now can build that dynasty yourself as you start to, build mini Teds. I think that's the best way I can say.
No pressure.
Not at all. I'll come back to you in 5 years. A player you added, and he is my absolute guilty pleasure. I think he is a scumbag, but whenever I watch him, he's box office. I love him. I loved him when he was at Ajax. I wish Arsenal bought him. It has to be Luis Suarez. I think this might be the last point before we end this wonderful recording. I just absolutely love him, Ted. I think he's my favorite ever non-Arsenal player. He is just such an animal in every single portrayal of that one word.
Yeah, that's a good way of summing him up.
Yeah, I just wanted your thoughts on Luis Suarez, what he did at Liverpool, and then how he just went into, for me, an all-time football great at Barcelona.
It was just effortless for him. It wasn't really playing football. He was just sort of playing in the park and just glided past people. And he made it look so easy. I always remember the goal. Was it a goal he scored from the halfway line against Norwich or something like that?
Yes, it was.
He just did amazing things, and he made it look so easy. But as you say, yeah, he's box office, and there's no other way to describe him. But I guess you wouldn't really change it for the world, because
No.
it made him who he was, and obviously, infamous for it. Particularly like with that Chiellini biting of the ear or whatever it was. Very, very strange. Like, what goes through someone's mind
After he already did it to Ivanovic the season before.
Very, very odd.
Insane.
But I mean, they say there's a fine line between insanity and genius, right?
Yep.
And it was definitely the case with Suarez. He was incredible for Liverpool in terms of talent, but absolutely bonkers in every other aspect. So yeah, I mean, obviously he went on to Barcelona.
Oh, wow.
and played with Messi and Neymar, and that three just strikes fear into the heart of any defenders.
Yes,
I don't know what stats he came up with. I'm sure he scored plenty of goals. But yeah, crazy player, and he'll always be in my heart as a Liverpool player. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's a number of players that have played for Liverpool and be excellent, like Fernando Torres, who was excellent, and then he went away and wasn't as good. Like Coutinho, exactly the same thing happened to him.
Exactly the same, yeah.
Suarez was one of those players that it happened less, but maybe that was due to the esteem of players that he was playing with at Barcelona. But I find it interesting that definitely the club, sometimes a player's ability can just be enhanced by the club that they play for. De Bruyne wasn't good for Chelsea, Salah wasn't good for Chelsea, but they've come to a different club. Obviously, they've evolved as people and human beings, and as footballers, and they found a place that suits them. I do find it fascinating that people can excel at one club and maybe not at another due to various reasons. But yeah, Suarez is one of those. There's not much more to say about him, I think, but yeah, definitely one everyone will remember.
Absolutely. Well, Ted, on that, let's go back to that one. On that, thank you ever so much for your time today, especially coming back after a hard day of hitting some Raducanu forehands. So it's wonderful.
I definitely can't hit a forehand like Raducanu.
That's for the next stream. We'll talk about tennis because I'm a huge tennis fan. So I think to finish off, really, Ted, how can they follow you? Where can they follow you? And I shall put the links when I release the video.
I'm mainly on Twitter at TED Talks FPL. I'm also on Instagram with the same title. I do a lot of videos for Fantasy Football Scout on the YouTube channel, so you can see those by following Fantasy Football Scout. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I've got a lot of various graphics that I share on a regular basis, and they are aimed at condensing a lot of data into very streamlined, easy to digest information. So
as easy as you can, because there's a lot of information on there.
Exactly. But hopefully tailor it for people that don't really like delving into numbers, and to make it more like positionally interesting, so someone can gain at least one thing from any chart or graphic or visualization that I do. That's my aim. So yeah, if you fancy getting involved or viewing any of that content, then definitely follow me on Twitter. That would be the main one.
Fantastic. So Ted, thank you so much for that. Guys, hope you enjoyed it. By all means, follow Ted. I follow Ted. And of course, I watch his videos on Fantasy Football Scout as well. So absolutely fantastic. For those wondering, my next guest will be FPL Salah. So pretty excited about that. Just a great guest. Just keep coming. For some silly reason, they like to do videos with me. So
huge.
So Ted, thanks a lot. Good luck for the rest of the season. And guys, we'll catch you later. Bye.